The Everything Sequel podcast is brought to you by Tuity Fitness and the Vegas Beer Guys.
The Everything Sequel podcast contains explicit language. 'Cause we learned it from you, Dad. The movie we disagree about the most. It's Ocean's 12. My name is Michael Shantz of the How Dare You Awards. Joining me, the man trying to steal my Fabergé egg, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Say hello, Tom.
I was once in a vault when it got robbed. I thought I'd start with my favorite line in the movie because you love it so much.
The line or the movie?
The line. I think that's the best line in the movie.
All right.
It may well be because that scene reminds me of Out of Sight, but nonetheless, I do like that line, and I think Clooney delivers it well.
Perfect.
Because he's excited about wrapping the film Ocean's 11 and going home to see his family. Although he wasn't married at that point, was he? He was just a lonely, beautiful man.
Doing whatever and whoever he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Half his age. Yeah.
All right. Well, here we are.
You're thinking lawyers. Let's move on.
Let's move on, or we have to contact. Who was that guy from the Mannequin movies that stole a bunch of money?
Now I've forgotten the embezzlement.
Good stuff.
Yeah. You see, the thing is, if I get his name wrong, then I've slandered someone else. So I'm just gonna say nothing, which is what I should have done in the first fucking place.
What was his name? I think it was Jimmy Jim Shabadoo.
Do you know the name that came into my head?
That's the worst name I've ever heard. Oh God!
No, Jimmy John.
Do
you know the name that came into my head? Having said all that, and now I'm gonna slander them. John Madden. Clearly not him.
Perfect. All right, well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to talk Ocean's 12. It's a 2004 film directed by Steven Soderbergh, who we've covered before, Tom.
We certainly have, yeah.
And
very recently.
Yeah, if you know him, you know him. In addition to Trey Part 2, we already talked about, you just mentioned Out of Sight.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. And he's got
all time, really? Interesting.
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah, that's a top 10, I think.
Interesting. It's one of my top 3 Elmore Leonard adaptations, so maybe not as high praise as you.
Maybe not.
But still, it's a movie. You know how I feel about Elmore Leonard. That's high praise indeed.
What are the others? Confidential,
Jackie
LA?
Brown, and oh no, that's Elmore. That's James Ellroy.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I know. Why do those two crime geniuses have to have basically the same name?
Damn it.
Yeah,
but Jackie Brown. I literally just rewatched Jackie Brown like 4 or 5 days ago.
Also Tarantino's best film, just saying. And what is the other? Out of Sight, Jackie Brown. What am I missing?
Oh, Get Shorty.
Maybe I'm... Get Shorty, yeah. In film, obviously Justified is better than all of them.
Because he wrote the novel, the second Get Shorty novel, too. What's that called?
Oh, Be Cool.
Be Cool. Yeah, he wrote that, too.
That is not one of the best Elmore
Not
adaptations.
at all. That does not
But what a movie we could absolutely cover on the show at some point.
Absolutely. And will, someday. All right.
The movie version of Get Shorty is so good, it predicts what the book Get Shorty says the movie version of the story will be.
Yeah.
That's how good it is.
Yes, I agree. And, he's no slouch. He did, Contagion, so he predicted our recent past.
He's the reason we're where we are now.
Yeah,
right?
and you don't see this very often.
Saying.
I think it was the same year he got nominated did he get nominated twice for both Traffic and Aaron Brockovich? Because they come out the same year, I think.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Wow. So those are two big movies to come out the same year for any director.
That's crazy.
Hmm.
And he even does, TV work that people admire, like Behind the Candelabra.
But that won Oscars, so you can consider that a film, right? Oh, it was nominated for Oscars.
No, I don't think so. It's just Emmys. Was it released?
I think I think it counts as a theatrical release. I think it was nominated for Oscars.
No, I don't think
that's
so.
his best. I disagree. I also think it's his best movie by a mile.
It's very good. I love that movie.
I think best Michael Douglas performance, best Matt Damon has ever been.
I remember. I think it's Rob Lowe told a story.
He's so good in that as well.
He's so good.
I'm just thinking of his face, the face that he pulls, the surgery face that he does.
He talked about the scene. I think he just rings the doorbell, and Michael Douglas opens the door, and they chat for a second. And Soderbergh didn't do any coverage. I think maybe it was no coverage of Rob Lowe from back behind Michael Douglas's body. And he said, "You want to switch it around?" And he goes, No, it's all right. We're going to move on. And he said, that's when I realized that he's already editing in his head.
Yeah, that's
how good it... Yeah.
That's what they say about the Coens as well. They never waste a shot. Everything that's in the storyboard makes it into the movie.
Right.
That's
111 time Emmys, Tom.
I'm sure it was nominated for Oscars. Maybe BAFTAs. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. You know how I'm British.
You don't count that, do you? Yes, it was nominated for 5 BAFTAs. No Oscars.
That's what I'm thinking. So it must have been a theatrical release in Europe and maybe Britain. Well, at the time, Britain was Europe. Let's not get into that. After our last episode, what we descended into.
Come on, we have to talk more history.
That wasn't the way I thought that story was going, because as soon as you mentioned the name Douglas and coverage, I assumed it was going to end with Michael Douglas smashing a chair over Steven Soderbergh's head. A la Kirk. And Stanley Kubrick. That's how Kirk Douglas responded to Stanley Kubrick cutting his close-up in Spartacus. He left the room, brought in a chair, and smashed it
and
over
assaulted.
Stanley Kubrick's head. Yes.
And assaulted a person. Well, this movie, as we previously discussed, it is not well liked. Only 55% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's quite high, though, for a derided movie. We've seen
yeah,
way
but
worse than that.
Compared to the first movie, and I mean, the next movie is all the way up to 70%. So, I mean, it's low. I think it's the lowest in the series.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, again, the consensus is with me.
All right, settle down.
I'm not saying it as I just feel weird. It's eerie. It's not good.
Well, maybe I could turn you and everybody else around.
Feels like an anvil's about to fall on my head or something.
It had a budget of $110 million, an opening weekend of 39.1. In the USA, only 125.5. I think it lost steam, fairly quickly. But in the world, $362.7 million. So it made money.
Yeah. I would say it's looking at European markets in what happens in the film.
Sure.
It wants people to think of it as a European film, maybe with the idea that if they don't like it in America, which of course they're not going to like, of course they're not, that in Europe they'll embrace it like they do all weird American stuff. No, I also imagine most of that budget was paying to change George Clooney's flight from the Friday night when they wrapped to the Sunday when they finally wrapped on this movie. Just one last dig.
All right.
Carry on.
I'm going to let you have it, but
Yeah.
I'm ready to fight.
Yeah.
For the first time ever in my life, I'm ready to stick up for this movie. Literally until 2 days ago, I would have been on everybody else's side. I would have said, fuck that movie.
Yeah. Well, maybe we're all wrong and you're right.
No, that's what I assume.
Yeah, but maybe it's really true this time. That's what I'm saying.
That's good. All right, well, what do you have to say about multicolored Warner Brothers and Village Roadshow credits?
I mean, it's a signpost for the movie, right? This is going to be all style, no substance.
Yeah, totally.
The color and the graphics.
But I think you could say that about all of these movies.
Sure, yeah, to different degrees, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The colors and graphics are straight out of a movie circa 1960.
Yeah, that's
It looks
that's
like
my
the opening
feeling.
to North by Northwest in terms of the use of color.
Yeah, it looks like the happy color version of Psycho.
That's so true. Yeah. No, I mean it's and you know that's no mean feat to sort of capture whatever that kind of historical
essence is.
look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's hard to do, and Soderbergh is certainly capable of channeling that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in terms of the color and the spectacle and the look, it's telling you this is a style movie more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Until the movie begins and you realize that's all you're getting. So
settle down.
Okay.
Because I partially disagree. I mean, in essence, you are right, but listen,
I'm not attack. This is not one of my attack points. Okay?
I've yet to begun to attack, sir. All right, now here's one of the points I wanted to make that I was keeping from our last episode, because if you take the first movie and all its glitz and all its glamour and all its sort of retro kind of Sinatra feel, and then adding caper to it and adding heist to it, essentially all that movie is a guy trying to get his gal back. That's what that movie is. And that's one of the things I love about that movie. He comes up with this master plan.
Yeah.
But really the most important thing is for him to get his wife back.
Right.
And I think that it's a smart thing that this movie chooses to kind of keep that portion of the story intact and then move it over to Rusty. We have completed George Clooney, Danny Ocean's love story, and now we're going to move on to Brad Pitt's Rusty's love story. And I think that, it's one of the things that struck me upon watching this sequel that I think is smart. But then it's like, you have 9 other characters, and I referenced this in the episode. When we move over to Ocean's 13, they forgot that part of the story. It's like, okay, well, we can't give a shit about Linus's love.
They forgot women.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not just this storyline. It's the idea of women that they forgot.
Mm-hmm. But I like that about this part of the story.
I get where you're coming from. I'd probably be more convinced, 1, if I'd seen Ocean's 11. 2, if
You've never seen Ocean's 11?
Seen Ocean's 11.
Oh my god! I knew going into this that you
but
probably...
I don't know why I had a 2. I don't know why I had a 2
damn it.
because you're not listening anymore.
I knew you probably hadn't seen these 3 sequels. And I'm still astonished by it because you're such a movie fan. Okay, but the idea that you hadn't seen Ocean's 11, god damn it, Tom.
In either Ocean's 11. I haven't even seen the 1961, which seems like a movie I totally should have seen. I've watched Elvis movies. And not the good ones. Right? Stay Away Joe. Live a little, love a little. These are not good movies. You'd think there'd be time in my life for Ocean's 11, the number 11. But no, I haven't seen any of it. So anyway, that's one part of it. The second part is, I don't think that storyline...
You had a second part, sorry.
...is evenly distributed throughout the movie enough for it to be effective as a storyline.
Okay.
It's clumped at the beginning, clumped at the end, and it barely plays a role in between.
Disagree. Go ahead. Is there a number 3?
Well, no, that's it. I think that's strong enough. It's like it's so kind of crammed. The whole idea of
you think your 2 points are strong enough?
His relationship with her and her relationship with her father is so shoehorned in and crammed here and crammed there, and it's kind of the movie's kind of bursting at the seams. And I assume, even having not seen the original Ocean's 11, that it is done, that the relationship between him and, I'm guessing, Julia Roberts is like done effectively, and it kind of like a through line to the movie. Here it's not a through line at all.
You know, that you're right about.
Forget.
It's way more of a through line in the first movie than it is in this movie. But I think there's lots of shit shoehorned into this movie, but this portion of it doesn't feel shoehorned in to me. I think this movie's just dense with a bunch of shit.
You think Albert Finney is organically integrated into this movie?
Okay, no, but... because he's barely in this movie. I mean, I don't consider it a shoehorn.
Why is he barely in this movie?
Well, yeah, I mean...
Because we're told at the end, this is the whole point.
Yeah,
at the end, we're told it's the whole point of the movie.
I think that's one of the mistakes of this series of sequels in general.
Yeah.
The things that they try to keep hidden from the audience, to the degree to which they work, you know, that is, those are, you know, there are highs and lows within that in all of these sequels.
It's infantile, I think. And I remember, and again, this is something where age has kind of crept up on me here. I remember arguing with people at film school about the movie Hidden. You remember that movie with Juliette Binoche?
No, I don't remember this. Because when you said Hidden, I immediately wanted to say, do you mean The Hidden with Kyle MacLachlan?
No, I don't.
Where he plays the alien who's chasing the other alien who likes heavy metal music and fast cars?
Yeah. This is a fine French movie.
And I couldn't make my mind move past that. But sorry.
It's famous for basically revealing the ending of the movie in the final shot of the movie. It's a long continuous shot, and if you don't notice one particular detail, you won't understand the movie. So you have to pick out that detail in this one massive canvas.
Okay.
And I remember at the time arguing with my film professors. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, you know, you think one thing and then you got another and you've got to really look for it. And I remember, like, the older film people that were teaching me were like, that's tedious, that's cheap filmmaking, it's gimmicky. And now I feel that way completely about most films that choose to conceal the ending of a movie from the audience, unless it tracks the whole movie and it's the whole point of the movie, like in a Spanish Prisoner or in a House of Games.
Right.
I'm just not interested in it as a plot turn. It's like, tell me what I need to know when I need to know it, or you better have a damn good reason why you're not. And there are no good reasons why they keep half of this information from us. And the characters in the movie. It's never explained why the characters in the movie are not allowed to know this information while it's happening either.
See, but I think that's the thing that I think that this series thinks it's... I think that they think it's kitschy and fun.
Yes, they do.
To keep us in the dark.
Yeah.
And that we'll be like, you know, like pop the streamers and let go of the balloons when we finally...
it's like a gender reveal party.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's like a gender reveal party. They come in and they go, you thought this was happening? Well, let me tell you something. Something else was happening.
In principle, I agree with you on that. In this movie, particularly for this watching, though, I thought that this movie did some of that better than the other movies. In this movie, when the team gets in trouble, I actually believe it, as opposed to in 13, I'm on to their tricks now, and I know that they're going to get out of everything because something will be revealed to me later, and so I can sit back and not have to worry, and I relax. And then in 8, everything's done so poorly in the terms of like that team. Every time that team runs into a problem, that problem is solved 90 seconds later.
Yeah.
So this movie to me is the most effective in the things they do keep from us, most specifically in terms of like when the team's in trouble.
Okay.
So
I buy that.
Yeah.
I also buy. I think if it was written and structured better, I would be really into Brad Pitt and Catherine Zeta-Jones. I can see Soderbergh trying to recreate the Clooney-Lopez out of sight relationship, and he's very good at taking sexy people and making them look their sexiest.
Yeah.
And he definitely does that in this movie. I mean, you know, in terms of physical attraction, the way he films those two actors in this movie is as beautiful as he made Clooney and Lopez look in Out of Sight. So I got no bones with that. I just don't think dramatically or romantically it catches on in the movie at all at any point.
All right. Fuck you.
Well, that's how I know I'm winning. If that's the best because that's the best retort you could come up with.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. Well, that's a concession.
That was a joke.
Yeah. No. I mean the idea. Like I think there is interest there. I just don't think they harness it.
Okay.
But anyway.
And you seem to have a lot of issues with Soderbergh in this movie, and you know, the style that he's bringing to the movie. But a lot of this I think works for me. I like this first scene when she's telling him all the clues that she's finding out about. I'll be more specific. When Catherine Zeta-Jones, Isabel, is telling him all the clues. Brad Pitt's about the clues that she's finding, which is about him because he's the thief and he's looking at his boot and all that. And then the freeze frame of him jumping out that window, that kind of thing stylistically. I don't know. I like the look of this movie because part of it feels kind of retro still. It feels like there's a graininess to it that feels kind of 60s.
I think it's just papering over the cracks. Style in this movie for me is just papering over the cracks of the movie.
Okay.
I figured that's its job, and obviously Soderbergh's going to be able to do that better than a lot of directors, but that doesn't mean that he's not doing that just because he's doing it well. And so this idea of like you have a series of very short scenes that reunite you with the characters from the previous movie, and Soderbergh's idea is like how to make these scenes feel like one coherent whole is you have the same continuous tracking shot in each of them. Okay. But then you get to and that's what I'm saying about the Battlefield Earth of it all. If it's the same shot every time, it's just like you don't have consistency. You're telling me you don't have consistency. If this is the only consistency, there's no consistency. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, part of what I do like is that it also, there's no way you would know this, because you haven't seen Ocean's 11. But we're also kind of following the structure of that movie. I mean, in that movie...
And heist movies in general.
Yeah, I mean, the Ocean's 8 and Ocean's 11 are kind of matched. Like, they're both released from prison. And then you find Danny meeting up with Rusty, but then it's like they start discussing the team. Well, who could we use? And then one by one, we're meeting the team. And then this movie follows that structure in the sense of one by one, we're catching up with the team.
And again, that's that irritating tendency of we've got to find people at their lowest, right? No one's enjoying the straight life. And that's kind of one of the reasons I gravitate more to Ocean's 13. It's like I feel like they're not. It's not like they're doing it because they want to counteract how bored they are. They're sort of doing it for a reason. There's a reason why everyone's doing it. And there is obviously a key reason why everyone's doing it here, because they're being threatened.
Right.
And they have to pay back the money. But I don't know, it just feels like it feels like it, and you can feel free to use this against me, because I know you will.
Yes.
But it feels like it's sort of like announcing that we're living in the shadow of the previous movie. It's like, you know, all those plot points that we did in the last movie that you all enjoyed? Well, now you have to suffer with the consequences of that, which is all these guys are not criminals, and we're going to take 15 minutes to make them all criminals again. And I just find it really tedious and procedural. It's just...
I like all these characters, and so I like kind of seeing where they are. I take your point about, you know, where they are is, it all feels like they're sort of lesser versions of themselves, you know, like they couldn't really be happy unless they were together and stealing shit.
Right, exactly.
But I also think that that's probably partially true for these characters, you know? And I don't
it's that thing about starting
that.
off in the wrong foot. I don't want to see Indiana Jones, you know, making his instant coffee in his fucking kitchen at the bottom of the well. Han Solo at the bottom of the well. Like, can these guys not just be living? And you know, it would be a better story. These guys were like, you know what? We don't need crime. But if crime comes walking back into our lives in a way that we can't ignore it, and that's kind of what. That's the kind of bait and switch of Carl Reiner in this movie is essentially that, right? He's just like, nope, I like the straight life. And then halfway through the movie, he's like, oh, I gotta go back to the life. So it would be a much better story and a much more surprising and interesting way to start this movie if they were all getting on fine, and then Andy Garcia comes back into their lives and drags them back in the hole. I like that idea, because they're not really when it's revealed that they were going to go back into a life of crime anyway, and some of them already are back in that world and never left. Where's the plot movement? Where's the development?
I mean, I think you're hanging a hook on a very...
But
hanging a hat on a very small hook, you know? Like, they were ready to come back, they're not ready to come back. Who cares? We have to have them come back.
Yeah, then decide which one it is. And don't tell me halfway through the movie that it's something different than it was at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, but that could be something different. That's a whole different thing. It's not, I have to go back to crime. It's, oh, I left them all alone. That makes sense for a character like Saul.
Oh, I'm talking about the whole movie. I'm talking about, you know, halfway through the movie when Clooney and Pitt have that conversation where it's like, you know, it's kind of going to go back and do crime anyway. Even if
you mean when they're saying you look bored, I feel bored, like all of that? Yeah.
And I don't want to see that in my characters. That's not where I want to find them at the beginning of the sequel. That's why 13 is much better. It's just like, they're wherever they are, and then this thing happens, and then they deal with the thing. That's a better story, and not the way I described it. But
yeah, it sounds riveting. If you think about it, it's a better story.
Yeah, the way I set it up, the thing happens, and then it's like David.
Yeah, but I think you're making up.
And then it goes to another thing, and then between the thing, there's two lines, and that line is where drama is.
I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
No, I'm making a molehill out of a mountain.
Oh, come on. Bullshit.
This I mean, I don't know. Like that this is why it's really hard to have any kind of investment in what's going on. Because it's just a self-perpetuating cycle of we've got to find some way to get these people back doing several heists again, like we always loved seeing them do, which is another misnomer. And the movie can't decide which reason it decided was most important.
Well,
Which,
can we
you know,
at
if
least...
they'd have spent more of a weekend making this, they might have figured that out.
Let me ask you this. Can we at least agree? Because when I actually started to really like this movie was when the team does get back together and Bernie Mac is pissed that Andy Garcia called it Ocean's 11. Because to me, this is... We're in the territory now of getting kind of meta about sequeldom specifically, and then wrapping it up in character. I like that Bernie Mac's like, who the fuck called it? You said he called it Ocean's 11. I'm an independent contractor. And then Casey Affleck saying, it just hurts so much. I like that kind of self-referential comedy that they're bringing.
It's very generic and desperate.
God
You're leaning into
damn it,
self-referential. But I think the way you described it, self-referential comedy is what it is. It's not metatextuality, which there's something interesting in these films about how it's both the...
It's a little meta because you're talking about the actual title of your movie. Like, we're going past...
Bernie Mac's doing, you know, he's back to House Party 3, which is a better movie than this, by the way.
How dare you? How dare you? Oh.
Yeah, the gloves are off, ladies and gentlemen.
Now I'm
and
pissed.
non-binaries. But I feel like it's been done. Isn't this just the conversation from Reservoir Dogs, followed by the scene from Reservoir Dogs? And Soderbergh's a contemporary of Tarantino, should know better. Why do I have to be Mr. Pink? Same joke. But Bernie Mac is just like, I'm a stand-up in a movie. Whatever lines you give me, I'll turn it into a stand-up routine. And that's what I felt this was.
Oh, man. I thought we'd be aligned.
No, the stuff later in the movie that I think is more successful in that.
There's no telling what sequel shit you will or will not gravitate towards. You are inconsistent, I say.
Criticizing the previous film for the sake of doing it, I don't think is interesting. It's no Gremlins, you know, like questioning the rules of the Gremlins. That's incredible. Basically saying, hey, you know, the foundations that this film is made on is all bullshit. That's a big swing. This is just kind of like, you know, poking the first film with a stick because you got nothing else to do. And again, it makes it feel like a totally improvised movie that doesn't have a full script. I guarantee you this movie does not have a full script.
Oh.
Show me the full script to Ocean's 12. It does not exist, at least before they made a fake one afterwards that is transcribed from the movie.
Nonsense!
Umbrage!
I take umbrage.
Yeah. You should. You should.
God damn you. I mean, should we take a break on the umbrage or should we go on a bit?
No, I'm happy to go on. I'm happy to roll with the umbrage.
All right, fine.
That less known rap classic, rolling with the umbrage. But yeah, I mean, to your point, it is just like there's like a check-in with each of the characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you've already alluded to this. How many people are in this crew? Especially as someone who hadn't seen Ocean's 11. Seemed like a lot of people.
Yeah, it's 11, Tom.
Okay, yes. Oh, all right. Okay. That's the meaning of Ocean's 11. Again, if I'd seen the first movie, I would have known that. But how is the last movie not 7 hours long? It took us 15 minutes just to do a brief check-in with each of them. Is Ocean's 11 a film made entirely
We are so
of introductions?
diametrically opposed. Like one of my notes says, 15 minutes in, we're all caught up. I like it. Move on.
It shouldn't take 15 minutes. But it's not like but it's literally just a check-in like, that guy is here. Okay, this guy is here, and this guy is here, and this guy is here. That shouldn't take 15 minutes of screen time.
Well, Ocean's 8, it takes about a half hour, so settle down.
True. I don't like that about that movie either. That's the benefit of saying all these movies are bad. You can throw no argument at me that I'm like, yeah, was a piece of shit. You're right. But you have to defend each of them being good.
I did set
You've got a
myself
way
up
harder task.
for way more work, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
At the end of the day, it's fun, Tom. You don't have to take it so seriously.
I'm not taking anything seriously. I'm having the time of my life.
Well, I wish I could. Like, there's so much you don't even understand. Linus is on the airplane.
I know it's like trying to have a conversation with a lion. I'm not gonna. We've got no common frame of reference.
Linus has all this insecurity about, wanting to take a more deeper role in this.
Here we go. Okay, saving grace of this movie, Mr. Matt Damon.
Okay, thank you.
Pacino in the next movie. He's the only character that I can discern in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one they invest any kind of character development in.
Well, here's one of my points. You wouldn't know this because, again, haven't seen Ocean's 11. But when you watch Ocean's 11...
Not my fault.
I disagree.
Well, this film shouldn't hold me accountable for having not seen the first film.
Maybe not. But at the very least, as a movie-going fan, the idea that you didn't go and see Ocean's 11 is ridiculous. Moving on.
Yeah.
Take Ocean's 11, 12, and 13.
Yes.
Those three movies are Matt Damon's arc.
Oh, and that's clear.
I think is probably clear.
Yeah, it's not only is it clear, it's extremely well performed.
All right.
And it's the only evidence in the movie that they've invested any time in the idea of character development. Is in this character. I think he plays it fantastically well.
Good.
Everyone else looks really thin in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, but that's sort of a conceit of just all of these movies because, as you said, how many fucking people are on this team? And it's 11 of them. And then with each
some
movie
of them
you're
are have to
adding
be caricatures. Yeah.
Yeah, with each movie you're adding one more. So
it's like The Wire.
Yeah, exactly.
By the time we got to season 3 of The Wire, it's like, fuck, how many people do we need to catch up with?
You gotta take what you can get from each of these movies, When you're talking about Bernie Mac, you're just gonna, like, on the outside, all you're talking about is getting nails done. Like that. That's Bernie Mac,
Yeah.
When you're talking about the two twins from Utah, they're just going to be kids that argue all the time with each other. That's what you get,
Wait, they're supposed to be twins?
I think they refer to them as twins.
That's the Affleck and the Khan, right?
Yeah.
That's how I think of them, the Affleck and the Khan.
The Affleck and the Khan. That should be its own movie.
Well, I got a lot to say about the godfatheriness of the next movie, and Scott Kahn's got a lot to do with that. Yeah, I take your point. I think you probably your level of characterization is going to change. But even what you're saying about Bernie Mac's going to be Bernie Mac, but he disappears for large parts of the movie, and it's like,
he gets arrested.
I know, but it's like It's like at the end of the movie, I'm like, me and Soderbergh are on the same page. We both forgot about Bernie Mac. It's like I should. The characters in the movie shouldn't be as uninterested in the movie as I am.
Yeah, see, but that's how I felt about Pete Postlethwaite in Jurassic Park in The Lost World. And I liked that moment where
I knew you were gonna throw the Lost World at
he
me.
walks out on that movie. You don't have a problem.
Yep. Oh, I copped to that. Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Had that conflict that meant he couldn't come back and do
exactly.
No explanation as to why the character leaves the movie. I didn't love that movie. That is such a misrepresentation
You're
Of
inconsistent.
the one
say.
time I gave a Spielberg sequel a chance, and you're gonna throw it back at me.
All right, now let's really take a break.
Now let's take a break. Yeah, we do. We need.
Does the coronavirus have you feeling oogie? Have you been sitting on your couch for weeks? Nay, have you been sitting on there for months? Well, it's time for you to get back in shape. Check out 2AT Fitness. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on Facebook. 2AT Fitness was started by Tina Bernard. She is ready and raring to go to help you get back into the shape you want to get into. They've got all kinds of classes. They've got outdoor in-person classes. They've got online classes if that's what you prefer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get back in shape. You're going to find a variety of exercises. You're going to have strength training, cardio, weightlifting, even fun 5-minute burnouts that will push you to your limits. So get off the couch, get into shape. Go ahead and check out 2AT Fitness. Tina Bernard has got you for all your needs. I know her personally. She's fantastic. You're not going to meet a better person to help you become the new you. Check it out. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Tom and I are here. We're like a couple of prize fighters in the ring talking about Ocean's 12, the 2004 sequel.
Actually, it's more like that. Who was it that Mike Tyson was fighting when it was like both of them were in their 50s, and Snoop Dogg said it's like watching your uncles fight.
Yeah, Vander Holyfield.
There you go. It's like watching your uncles fight.
Well, I have to admit, because the one thing that's weird about this movie is, on its face, it just looks like, Andy Garcia has come back into their lives as Terry Benedict, and he said, it's time to pay the piper, get your shit together. And it's pretty late in the movie until we discover there's a whole other thing going on with the Night Fox and how much he's pissed at the team.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again?
Do you think it should have been one or the other?
Well, I'm more. I think, given that they wanted to go in a different direction with this, it would have been more effective if Andy Garcia skipped a movie and then came back in 13 as the hero, as one of the team. When you have him, being essentially the team leader in this to some extent, you've kind of already ruined it for the next movie's reveal at that point. I mean, Vince Cassel is one of the great French film stars.
It's really good. Yeah.
So, if I would suggest, given what they have in terms of an actor, they should build on that side of things, and just Andy Garcia can, have a movie off.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. That's one of the things, like when you start with 11 people just on the team, and then you have to add the love interest,
insane,
and then a villain, and so when you get into this area of adding a second layer of villain that is the person who ratted them out, this is where the movie starts to feel really stuffed to the gills in a way that is uncomfortable, and I have to at least cop to that.
Yeah.
But
and
I really do like watching Linus struggle with Hagrid.
With Hagrid.
Even though Robbie Coltrane doesn't have a big part in this movie.
Wash your mouth out, Hagrid. You're only allowed to call him Cracker or...
Sorry, Tom, it's what he's going to be known
Russian
for the most.
The Russian gangster from GoldenEye, even though
it's what he's going to be known for the most. Sorry.
I know. I saw that when he died. I was like, how dare you? How dare you call Hagrid above Cracker? Yeah, the first of many sort of British character actors that are sort of thrown into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
I, of course, immediately thought of his performance in GoldenEye, and
Yeah.
Not only because his Dutch sounds quite a bit like his Russian, but also even before that, the scene where the camera's following the window, I thought Sam Mendes watched this movie before he made Spectre. Both he and Steven Soderbergh watched The Third Man before they made their respective movies.
Which part is that?
It's like a tracking shot along the window, which is just like the opening of Spectre, and it's also. And I realized as I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, they both stole it from The Third Man."
Mm-hmm.
The reveal of Harry Lime,
Okay. Yeah.
and though I like the work that Matt Damon's doing in these scenes, and this is where the meta quality of the movie works quite well, because he talks about, I want a more central role this time around, so they're working the story dynamics into the character motivation as well.
Well, you know what's funny, though, is that off-screen, I think he had just finished The Bourne Ultimatum, and he was trying to get out of this movie.
Right.
He wanted them to reduce his role. And Soderbergh said, no, that doesn't work for me.
Can't imagine what this movie would have been like without Matt Damon as a central character.
Yeah.
But I think the scene is ham-fisted. The whole, we waste a lot of screen time and words with this elaborate code scenario when he's talking to Robbie Coltrane to make a fairly simple character point. He's out of his depth. We get it. It's a lot of writing for a very simple idea.
Yeah, it's a simple joke. But that's one of the things about this movie, is that even when the movie is failing, it's, it's in a moment always with actors that you like doing things that I at least like, that appeal to me or I find funny. And so I can enjoy it on just that basic level.
I mean, I don't know what it's like in Ocean's 11, obviously, but
God damn it.
I think Clooney and Pitt are like dead-eyed in this movie. I get nothing from them, and I love both of those actors independently and in pretty much all their other movies. But I just feel like they're like the directors on screen. They're not doing any acting. They're just the two people who need to move to make the film happen. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe you're mistaking their extreme suave and coolness for something else.
But we're not out of the Bondwoods yet, and I still want some clarity on this because the character never comes back in the movie. But they break into a high security house owned by Koskov from the Living Daylights? Question mark? Who never appears in the film again.
Well, I don't know if it's a direct reference to The Living Daylights. It's probably a coincidence.
He's also Charles Nichols in The Fugitive.
True.
Again, two references that probably...
But what I'm saying is, I don't think he's playing that character.
Could be.
But that's one of the things that I marvel about in this movie is this, that's an actor that I at least recognize immediately.
Yeah, he's one of
I don't think he
Holland's
ever even says a single word in the movie.
No.
And then he's just gone.
He was in Verhoeven's early movies, his early Dutch movies. He turns up in two fairly big Hollywood films that I can think of, and probably more.
Yeah. But, so okay, I have your text here. All right.
Oh, we're not there yet, though, are we? Oh, but this
no,
is
not at all. But your
I got it wrong.
text, your text is wrong.
On both counts.
So for the sake of the listeners, Tom sent me a text. What he thought pissed me off about this movie, because we're here for what pissed me off. You wrote that you thought it was the hologram egg or the laser dancing.
Yeah.
One, I'll have you know, apparently that laser dancing could be done by Vincent Castle. Like he did it. Actually,
because it couldn't be done with those lasers.
What do you mean?
They say in the movie the lasers are random. How can you dance around random lasers? You
That's
can't
how good
do
he
it.
is. That's how well he moves.
No, it is not possible. You cannot do a choreographed routine to random lasers.
It's not choreographed.
It's as true today as it's always been. But the whole point is you can't predict where the laser's going, so you don't know how to create the move to miss it. It is actually physically impossible what he's doing. Anyway, I'm over it. I made my peace with it long ago. You brought it up.
Fine. But you are bringing up something that I think is a big problem for this movie, is that this movie sets up impossible situations that characters just take care of. And sometimes we get to see how, and sometimes we don't. But whichever one they chose to show us, they're showing us something that can't be done. At least by the way it's presented to us. And this is one example here when they break into this house. This is the thing that pissed me off was, I forget what they're getting. They're getting a piece of paper. What's the paper? The first what? The first what written? Doesn't matter.
Anne Frank's diary. I
Yeah.
don't know.
So what pissed me off was that whatever they're stealing is they're going to sell for $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Now, by the time you cut the bearings of this house and lift them up with these hydraulics, in my head, I started hating this fucking movie because I thought, you just spent like $30 million to try and steal $2.5 million. This is stupid.
But also, don't get me started on how they could all easily pay off their debts with the money they have. So the whole movie is, talking of foundations, pretty shaky foundations.
What do you mean? Just put it in a real high yield savings account for a bit?
Exactly! And then go over the paperwork with Andy Garcia. It's like, I know you were expecting this amount. We don't have that right now, but look at what it's gonna be. And he'd be like, why would I fight that? I'm gonna get more money. Anyway, never mind.
Because he's going to kill him, Tom. They don't have that kind of time.
Hedge fund! Two
They
words,
don't have
hedge
that
fund.
kind of time.
But they have enough money to make the money they need. They could even do it with clever gambling. But no, this movie can't be in Vegas. To be in fucking Amsterdam and a bunch
See,
of
I
other
thought
places.
you would appreciate that they changed locale.
It's, well, travel sequel. Again, it's been done before. Well, changed locale a lot. And instead of one big heist, it's lots of mini heists.
Yeah.
Again, is this inversion for inversion's sake? Because each mini heist kind of dilutes the idea of the
You're
heist.
very fickle. You like something in one movie and you don't like it in another, I tell you.
Yeah. Well, if it's done well, I like it. If it's not done well, I won't. I don't think that's fickle. It's film criticism. I mean, what do you... Yeah, I love The Godfather. I don't like Boondock Saints. I mean, what do you want from me? One dog goes one way, one dog goes the other.
Oh, I know. But this goes back to one of my previous points, is that then they discover that the Night Fox got in there. And in my mind, I always thought, listen, you just laid out how impossible it is to get in this house. And then you just tell us the Night Fox got in there, but you're not going to tell us how? Because that felt like a cheat. So when I first saw this movie, I all of that, I kind of just like...
Yeah.
Folded my arms and said, fuck this, I quit.
Yeah, especially if you make that promise.
And I still have that complaint.
Yeah.
But I let, like the complaints I had for this movie, I let start to roll off my back.
But that's not the part of the movie they're being self-aware about, though.
No, yeah, right.
Like, I would be fine with it if there was a nod and a wink to the audience, like, we can't actually explain this, so, it's just a MacGuffin. They just forget to explain it.
Right. Well, I do think they're trying to kind of build the mystique of that character.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we know essentially the movie's telling us he does it through disguises in the Pink Panther tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or even going all the way to Fantomas, he just uses a series of disguises. He probably was Charles Nichols from The Fugitive.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't those be the same people? Could just be a Charles Nichols mask that was really popular in one summer in 1993. Be the guy who killed Richard Kimball's wife.
Oh man!
Sorry, spoiler for The Fugitive there. There's some weird references. Speaking of metatextuality, the Miller's Crossing reference.
Yeah.
What's that all about? It's weird to see Elliot Gould quoting a movie that takes place later than he was a film star. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem right that Elliot Gould's like, hey, I saw this great movie called Miller's Crossing. It's like, no, it doesn't make sense. Historically, this doesn't make sense.
What if he said
Old
the
people
long
don't watch
goodbye?
new movies.
What if he said the long goodbye? Would you accept that?
No, well, it just reminds me that normally when older people, shall we say, with the greatest of respect to you,
How dare you?
in movies, they're normally talking about movies from their youth. They're rarely talking about movies that would have happened in the twilight of their years. So
Yeah.
maybe that's what's. But it's obviously. I mean, I guess.
But it could be
Clooney was
as
in
simple
Brother.
as Soderbergh's a fan of the movie.
Yeah,
You know.
and George Clooney is in the room, so.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Brad Pitt had been in a Coen Brothers movie yet, but he will be.
Well, I don't know where you are, but I think we're at the part where Isabel shows up to Brad Pitt's, where the team is, the hotel, right?
Yeah. Obviously I'm gonna pick out the underwater heist moment.
I already talked about it, Tom. I admit that that's stupid.
But weirdly enough, I actually quite like that because underwater heists are the only time that underwater cinema ever works. Because you're taking your time anyway, so you can be underwater.
Perfect.
Sexy Beast, for example, great underwater heist.
Oh
scene.
yeah, for sure.
This is no Sexy Beast, but I am not bothered by the underwater heist of it all.
All right.
Have we had the Europol scene yet? The kind of weird reverse Spectre, which is like it's supposed to be Interpol, but presumably they couldn't get the rights to Interpol, so they call it Europol.
I thought I read something in the IMDb notes that Europol is real, but they have no, like, arresting power or something like that. Something weird.
That's interesting. What
Yeah.
do they do?
I don't know.
But
Clearly did not
Interpol
make
isn't
an
real.
impression on me.
God, how the Interpol people must look down on the Europol officers then.
Right?
Can you imagine the
Do you think it's the same kind of beef, like, between the FBI and local police?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or local police and community office, like community support officers.
Right.
So we got that, and then and then the heist is done. So yeah, this is the house. This is the Charles Nichols house. Which we see it in sped up time, like Benny Hill style, don't we? I think.
Yeah.
You
You mean all the all the gadgets and stuff it
Yeah.
has?
Just gotta get like Bob Einstein. Just get right through it. Right now, I'm at the Arsenal where one of them hides in the suitcase of the Arsenal team on an away tour.
Yeah.
Not quite sure what's going on.
Yeah, the Magnificent Yen. They're Grease Man.
Right, and he hides in the suitcase of the Arsenal team while they're traveling away for European fixtures, which just
I like
seemed to
that
me
part where Scott Caan's talking to Casey Affleck and he says, yeah, but he's lost. Like, we don't have a Grease Man. He goes, yeah, but we got a bag man. He's like, a bag man. You're such an ape. It very much made me laugh.
All right.
An animal with no feelings, he calls him.
And we're transitioning into heist number 2, right? 2 of 3 or 4, because this is the Fabergé egg, and this is where Eddie Izzard comes in the movie.
That's where, yes. So we're approaching the Fabergé egg. Eddie Izzard comes in, but we have that scene where Isabel comes and sees Rusty, but first she sees, that's why they have to do the whole bus thing, because she sees Yen, she sees Danny, like she clocks a few people, and now it's like they're targeted. So we got to hide them from her at all times. Meanwhile, the movie itself and Soderbergh are hiding basically everything from the audience.
Yeah, I mean,
And
if it matters,
kind of starts
it
right
would be,
around
yeah.
then, yeah.
Doesn't really matter. Like, that's what you realize at the end. It's like, it doesn't really matter that you don't know, which is
Yeah.
because when you find out what it is that's happening, you're like, huh, yeah. That. Well, I mean, it's not like it's not like, I don't know, keep going back to this, but there's a moment, I don't want to spoil the film, The Spanish Prisoner, for anyone, but
Oh, very good.
the twist in that movie is that you've been looking at the wrong people through the entire movie. You should have been
Right.
looking at people elsewhere in the frame.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing like that here. It's just like, hey, you know what happened? We're going to retcon it.
Yeah.
You have no way of knowing that this happened, but it happened.
Right.
But it doesn't bother me. It just leaves me kind of meh.
But the way more egregious form of that is in Ocean's 8. You've got that above this.
Do not like that movie overall either.
But you like it
Keep
more
going
than
back to
this movie.
I do
And
like
it's
it more than this one
egregious in that movie.
because I am a feminist. And wow. Just lost a lot of people. Sorry.
Slay my
Sorry,
character
I
on
did
the
not
way
mean to
out the door.
I did not mean to trivialize the feminist movement just so I could end an argument with Mike. I'm sorry.
I've told you several times I'm a feminist. I like the boobs.
I was right there when they were burning their bras. So yeah, I was gonna say, I'm looking at Eddie Izzard, and now I'm starting to speak like Eddie Izzard. So yeah, so cheese and jam, and so he's our surrogate Bernie Mac, right? Because he's also doing a stand-up routine in the middle of the movie.
He's essentially the 12th person, right? He's 12 of Ocean's 12.
Oh, is he? Is really? Oof.
I think so.
If it's all riding on Eddie Izzard, your movie's in trouble.
Man, you have got it in for him.
Great comedian, terrible film actor.
What was
I
that
remember
show
I
he
went-
did on FX with Minnie Driver?
The Savages?
The
Is that what it's called?
Riches?
No. The Riches, that's it.
Yeah.
I went to a screening once of The Cat's Meow. Have you ever seen that film? Peter
No.
Bogdanovich film about the oh god, who was it? Like famous 1920s celebrity who died on a boat, like the original Natalie Wood kind of thing. And Chaplin was on the boat where some big star died, and it was all about that. Of course, being Peter Bogdanovich directing, it's all really about Natalie Wood. But anyway, Eddie Izzard plays Charlie Chaplin, and Bogdanovich was there at the screening, and someone asked him about why did you cast Eddie Izzard, and he literally said, he's a British comedian. Charlie Chaplin was a British comedian. And no more was said about it from anyone. And then
Ringing
immediately the next
endorsement.
question was like, in What's Up, Doc, how did you do that really cool thing that we wished you'd done in this movie? Tell us an Orson Welles story. But it's Eddie Izzard and duplicate Fabergé eggs. Talk about not having your shit together in a movie. You're going to go down the Octopussy route of storytelling? We have to keep track of multiple Fabergé eggs again in a movie?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, you'd think I'd like that, but that's the worst element of Octopussy.
Well, we're not. Yeah, basically that is all set up by. It's an hour, I think, into this movie when we actually finally. Well, not when we meet the Night Fox, but when the Night Fox meets the team, or at least
Yeah.
Danny, and makes the bet,
It is.
right?
Mhm.
And then it becomes clear what this movie is, what the rest of this movie is going to be,
Yeah.
which I admit is problematic. Like an hour in, and we don't know.
Well, I feel it's fairly consistent. I think I certainly knew when they did the first heist that it was going to be one of 2 or 3 that they do throughout the movie.
Well, they say that flatly. It's like this: we're gonna try to steal
Sure.
this thing, which will give us this amount of money, which means we can do this other thing, which might give us some more, and then we can buy some time from Benedict. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I suppose it does creep up on you a little bit, but I guess that's why it's like content meets style in that sense, because he's a secret. He's like a cat burglar with disguises, so
Yeah.
you don't see him until you see him.
Oh, it's also right around this time that we have the Clooney age jokes. I imagine you hated that too.
No, I thought it was funny, especially because
Thank God.
they talk about him being an age that he's past now, and he looks no different from how he does in this movie.
Right.
So
Because I thought it was really funny.
jokes
I love
on
it.
jokes on everyone but the classically aging George Clooney.
I love it. I love it when he says to Casey Affleck, "How old do you think I am? Do you think I look 50?" He goes, "I don't know, 48." He goes, "You think I look
Yeah.
48?" He says, 52.
Yeah, I did like that.
And then Don Cheadle tells him he only looks that old from the neck up. Those are all solid jokes.
Yeah, and I'm not even. It's low hanging fruit, so I'm not even gonna start to discuss his accent. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it more in the next movie because it's possible it gets worse as it goes on.
I wanted to ask you about this. Yeah, but I think it's worth mentioning and talking about right now because he was just on, I think, Smartless. And because Sean Hayes is Sean Hayes and he's just so bubbly and delightful and kind, he's telling him about how much he loves him in the Ocean's movies and how much he loves his accent. And he thinks it's just so perfect and like realistically done. And Don Cheadle goes, "Well, you're the only one." Because
Yeah.
everybody hated that accent and would tell me it's shit. And
They
so
make
I wanted...
a big mistake early on in this movie when we re-meet him because he's with Jared Harris, and so you actually hear
Yeah.
him doing the accent next to a live British person in the wild, and that really points out how lacking it is.
It is, but what I like is that
And also, why is Jared Harris just in that tiny bit
I
of
know.
the movie?
Well,
he's one of the
I
best
don't think he
actors
wasn't-
in the business.
he wasn't, he wasn't getting the bigger roles yet. I don't think in
No, it's true.
2004.
He hadn't played Moriarty, hadn't been in Mad Men. Yeah.
Yeah. But what
Sorry,
I do
spoiler for Sherlock Holmes: Games of Shadows.
But what I do like is I like that later in the movie he's explaining to Julia Roberts how to affect an accent.
Yeah.
And that's a little meta. And so
Well,
I like
mean,
that they're bringing in
yeah.
the context of the outside of the movie into the movie. That to me was the fact that they were willing to poke fun at themselves and he at himself. That's great.
Yeah, there's hits and misses with that, but it works better than most of the rest of the movie. That element of it,
All right.
but also it feels, it's like, again, going back to the blue in the face of it all. Like, that's a more metatextual movie because it's an improvised sequel. They have to do that because they haven't got a script, and that's what this feels like too. Anyway. We'll talk about the Julia Roberts of it all soon. The hologram egg. That was where I thought this movie originally lost you. It certainly wore me down.
It lost you?
I mean, it's just so Die Another Day, isn't it?
Jesus Christ.
But Eddie Izzard even mentions, he said that was very early Bond. I'm like, you wish. This is fucking ass end of Brosnan Bond.
But I think it's a perfectly reasonable way to try to steal an egg if you were going to heist a Fabergé egg.
Okay, yeah. If you
I don't care
make
that
one narrative leap, you can totally make another.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. I just thought it might rankle you because it's so Invisible Car.
And I do like that scene where Eddie Izzard calls, but Isabel stole his phone.
Yeah.
Also, I like that I like that stop cut when he realizes that she got his phone. I like that moment, but I like when Izzard calls and he keeps saying he's trying to tell him how much more money, how much more time, how much more everything, and he keeps saying, tell him, and tell him. Well, is it the next movie where he says it's the cliche to have a hot young assistant?
Movie.
Or is it this
It's
movie?
This movie.
I thought that was a good joke too.
Yeah. The next scene that I noted was a scene that tells me in no uncertain terms this movie was written by someone who was going through jet lag. Because back to back, we get a fake wake-up call and then sitting in a hotel room watching Happy Days dubbed in Italian. And only people who've been jet-lagged know both of those enough to write it.
I think I read that was an inside joke because both
This
Brad
whole movie's
Pitt-
an inside joke.
Probably, yeah.
On the rest of us.
Brad Pitt and George Clooney were constantly leaving fake wake-up calls for Julia Roberts during the filming of the first movie. And so they decided to bring it into the narrative of this movie.
Okay. That's not the worst thing in this movie by any means.
Yeah.
There's a moment here where Soderbergh's style gets the better of him. It's when there's like a rooftop shot, and it starts with the camera out of focus, and then we spend a lot of time focusing the camera, and then what is revealed is the plainest shot that you could possibly imagine. So it's like you've literally got nothing to follow this piece of.
I don't remember the shot. What was the plain thing?
It's just city. It's city roofs. That's all
Okay.
it is. And it's not a particularly interesting shot, but it begins out of focus and then goes into focus really slowly, as if it's something worth seeing. I like literally just a bunch of roofs. I tell you what, I like the idea of, and I dislike them abandoning and doing as a bait and switch. This idea of doing a daytime opening hours heist, I'd love to have have gone to fruition, but they immediately abandon it
because they all get arrested
for a cheap bait and switch of, oh, you didn't expect that to happen? No, I expected to see something I was looking forward to. That's what I expected to see for the first time ever in this movie. Because I like the idea of like, yeah, that is a legitimate, that's an inversion that would be interesting to watch. It's like, we have to do a heist, but we have to do it
during the day
when everyone is, there.
I don't remember that rankling me the first time I saw it. Like I said, I was already pissed off enough, but.
I mean, it's essentially what they do in Ocean's 8 as well, where they do, because they do it all during the gala.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of, they eventually make good on that. But at the time, I was like, oh, I would have liked to have seen that. And I guess Julia Roberts was not available for the majority of this film.
I don't know. I don't know if it had to do more with that. I mean, it seems as these movies go on, it's like, in the first movie, Danny gets his gal. Obviously, she's in that movie more than all the others. Like you said, I think representation problems, they grow as the series goes on. at least in the first 3 movies. And the way they kind of try to handle it in 13 to me is the most egregious.
Definitely.
Of the 3, but
This doesn't feel aimed at women. It's more like, this is the sequel. Everyone's signed back on. Posh for part of the movie, but not all of the movie.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I don't know that she had any schedule
together.
conflicts or anything. It might have just been, we've already discussed that these movies are kind of jam-packed. We are mostly focused on this team and everything that they're doing together.
Yeah.
And I think literally...
I don't believe anyone is saying, let's have less Julia Roberts in the movie. That's got to be her call if she's not in
It's
much
possible.
of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's
There's
possible.
no way there's no way anyone is going, let's phase out this Julia Roberts.
Yeah, but
isn't
what I'm
working.
saying is, once you've narratively already described this person as a person who, one, isn't thrilled about the fact that her husband's a criminal, which is what broke them up in the first place in the first movie. Spoiler alert, Tom.
Spoiler alert. It was the one-armed man.
So it's like,
Soylent his
the
people.
team has to steal shit. What's she going to do for the team? So narratively, there's not a lot of reason for her to be there, and they just sort of,
It's
contrive
one out, one in.
to get
It just
her
feels
in.
like one out, one in. It's like, okay, so Clooney's in jail. So now we've got enough money to pay Julia Roberts for these
right.
scenes. It's like a COVID movie
But-
ahead of its time. No one's in the same scene.
Right. But I think this is when I honestly started to really like this movie more than anything. I think Bruce Willis comes in and kills it.
It's my exact note here. Like I'm fine with the whole setup. It's a bit thin. The whole idea, again, for the sake of the listener, Julia Roberts is playing her character in the movie, who is pretending to be Julia Roberts in the world of the movie.
Yeah, I think part of it is, I think, just so that Rusty can say lines like, listen, I don't mean to be mysterious, but I can't talk about it and I can't tell you why. You know what I mean? It's just that
But-
goes with the theme of caper in a way of, but kitschy and fun that this movie seems to want to troll in.
Do you remember, not the most recent writer's strike, but the one before, which would have been, 2008?
Somewhere around there,
that
yeah.
sort of time?
7?
Yeah. And there were no writers on talk shows, so
Yeah.
all it was like meta comedy where Conan would go over to Jon Stewart's studio and
Right.
It's like that's what this feels like they're doing improvised meta comedy.
It does, yeah, it does
because
feel like that.
No one will commit to writing a full script for them. Show me the full script. But I completely agree with you. My note here is that the element of this that I love is the sideshow of Bruce Willis. That's
It's
actually
really funny.
That's the meat of this set piece. Is like when it begins. I mean, first of all, it made me sad as well because I was like, fuck. We're not gonna get any more Bruce Willis performances, and I mean you can argue about whether
right.
he was fully there in the last 10 years of his career, which probably not. But
Right.
when I see the good comic work he does in this scene,
Oh,
it just it starts up with him first of all eyeing up Catherine Zeta-Jones, and then you realize
yes,
it's like,
exactly.
what they think is funny about this scene is not as funny as what's going on here
Exactly.
with Bruce Willis. But I was like, I was just like, oh my god, it's a player reunion.
Yes, exactly.
The final scene of the player, and clearly they think it's a meta film within a meta film.
Yeah. So I was hoping, this is where I thought I thought that this would be the culmination of us being on the same page about certain things.
The Bruce Willis is for sure.
Okay. And one of my favorite moments in any of these movies is when Matt Damon's pretending to be whoever he is involved with Julia Roberts, and he talks about that, that little gold statue starts staring at you. You know what I mean, Bruce? And when Bruce Willis, he has the perfect look on his face as a man who's never won an Oscar and says, "Not really, Glenn. No." It's fucking great. Oh,
It's like, and I mean, it's one of the last times we saw Moonlighting's Bruce Willis.
yeah. It felt
that
exactly
kind of
like that.
Meta comedy Bruce Willis.
Oh, so good. And like I mentioned before, right before, like, Basher is giving her accent advice, which I think is funny as well.
Yeah.
I like that her character, because she's talking about being involved with stealing, and she doesn't like that. She says it's just wrong. And Linus says, "You mean like morally?"
Matt Damon's great throughout this movie, and
So
he's
funny.
great in this scene. And Bruce Willis is just nails the scene, the tone of the scene, I think, for me. And, I obviously, and again, I think this might be to your love of this movie, this might be the better version of this.
Easy on the love.
No. You
part
mischaracterize what I say. I'm going to mischaracterize what you
Easy.
say. When Sherry Jones comes in, who later turns out to be his mother, they pull exactly the same bit in the next movie, and I think this is better. First of all, obviously Bob Einstein, one of the greats, and he's
So
very
good.
funny in it. But this feels more like, because it's Sherry Jones, it has a little bit more dramatic weight.
Yeah.
And it plays to the idea that he has an arc in these movies, and that the character's going somewhere. So I really like that. But then we just get these kind of tedious zoom shots of the crew leaving prison, which is just like, how long do you want this movie to be exactly? Can we not just cut to the chase at some point? One less stylistic flourish here, and we're in under 2 hours.
Come on, Tom. For like what? 4 extra?
I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had 1, maybe 2 craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They'll try new beers, they'll tell you about beer. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.
Well, now let me ask you this. What was your initial feeling seeing the whole kind of team arrested? Did you just think it would come of nothing and they'd get out easily? Or were you kind of like, oh, how are they going to get out of this?
Oh, no, never. Because... But it feels like the kind of movie where not all the stars can be on screen at the same time, so it makes total sense in that context that, like, Clooney and Pitt are not going to be in the movie for a little while. When they're filmed in the cells, it's literally then you're not going to see them with any other actors in the same shot, so we can film their scenes separately. And then we'll go to maybe. I naively thought we might go back to whatever's going on with Bernie Mac, but we're not even there yet. So we have the whole Julia Roberts set piece kind of comes out of that. So not great, but typical of this movie, just to sort of put a couple of characters away and then focus on another couple of characters.
Well, I guess I'm asking because these movies make choices. Each one makes a choice to show and tell the audience something and to not show or tell the audience something.
Right.
and then sometimes within that, to choose to not show or tell something to the characters in the story from each other. It works the best in the first movie. But like I said, I think it works the second best in this movie. I don't think the next two movies are very good at this portion of it at all. And I just remember thinking, both on this watching and my first watching, I wasn't so worried, not worried, but you mentioned like feeling a little cheated out of getting the daytime heist, but you still kind of get that. It's daytime when they go back in and try to do the switch with the laser Fabergé egg.
Well, they don't get through the door.
They get through the door. They get all the way to the egg.
No, oh, you mean the event
with Julia Roberts?
With Julia Roberts, yeah, but that's a different
thing.
That's a totally different setup.
It's not the plan that they laid out as they were riding up.
No, it's not the thing that would have been interesting about seeing that. It's again, it's a sideshow. It's supposed to be. Even in World, it's a sideshow.
Yeah.
It's all sideshow. No.
At any rate, I just remember. I do remember thinking.
That analogy works.
I do remember thinking, all right, I know something's going on, but I'm not sure what. As opposed to the next movie, I know what's going on.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, in that way, I think this movie is more successful than the other sequels in that part of it.
Yeah, it doesn't need that Murder on the Orient Express style recap of like previous scene. You know, it's like it's not that. It's just
not that
retconning.
intricate.
Yeah, it's just we retconned what we showed you. You couldn't have noticed it at the time because we didn't show it to you in any shape or form. But yeah, I mean this is where Catherine Zeta-Jones's family trauma kind of comes out of nowhere, and Albert Finney appears in the movie. I mean, the idea that you could ever disguise Albert Finney from the audience. One of the most recognizable voices in cinema. Even the back of his head is iconic.
Yeah, right.
There's no way. I mean, as soon as I was like, Albert Finney. That's Albert Finney.
Right.
I don't understand. I mean, obviously they want to wrap things up pretty quickly. But I don't know why they couldn't have laid pipe for this earlier in the movie. It's not like anything is going on in the movie earlier that prevents you from doing that. I don't know. It just seems it's all clumped in this last couple of scenes.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, all these movies do that. And again, I think this movie, does it better than the other movies. I not that it's great going back, but for instance, so when George Clooney and Julia Roberts go to the Night Foxes, when they go to Castle's little place, and is like, okay, now you got to give us our money. And he's the character that doesn't know what's going on. And now we as the audience are like, oh, they've been playing him the whole time. But how did they do that? There are fun stuff within it. When he says, well, how did you beat my guys when you were going into the place to get, through the lasers? And they show Affleck and Khan just sitting there being their idiot selves, not paying attention. That to me is more fun and interesting than watching Scott Conn leave a restaurant, watch Castle tail him, and then watch Bernie Mac tail him, or whatever way it went.
It's all pretty basic.
In 13.
Like, David Mamet would wipe the floor with these people and their ideas of how to do that. And again, you have to plant the seed early so that the audience is like, we were such fools. How did we not see that? If you don't have that, then it's pointless doing it, I think.
Okay, how do you plant the seed for this particular movie?
I don't know. There's the idea that there is uncertainty about what's going on, but that halfway or 3/4 of the way through the movie, you think you know what's happening.
I really need you to go back and watch Ocean's 11 because I think it
Well,
does
we
a lot
can-
of
we
that
can,
really
you
well.
know,
We will
can
at some
cover it for the
point, you know.
Patreon.
Yeah.
Well, maybe sooner than you might think,
Yeah.
because we're running out of original.
We're running out of
reboots,
time.
So, yeah.
Also, I think we're running
I've-
out of time on the original staying on Max.
Indeed.
Oh, I could
So-
postpone another series, another month.
No,
perhaps.
you're not getting out of House Party, Mister. So, I mean, that's really all I have. There's an amazing piece of music that I've known for many years that appears towards the end of this movie. It's a 70s library Italian film soundtrack, Rita alla Los Angeles. It was Steven Soderbergh and I have the same collection album because it's a Barry Seven's Connections, I think it's called. But the film's not worthy of the song, but it's still a great song. So he's got good music taste as well.
All right then.
And yeah, nothing like ending an ending featuring a story started minutes ago with a character introduced in the previous scene. What a payoff. And how did you? This is interesting because your line has been you're celebrating how they're doing things differently. How do you feel about them essentially resetting to the original movie with the Night Fox, them helping the Night Fox break into the Bellagio? I guess they abandoned that totally, right? There's no sense that that's happened.
Well, I don't know
In
that they
between.
are helping him. I always.
Or they gave him information that allowed him to get in there.
Yeah, but I think we also see him in a flashback earlier in the movie near the Bellagio, don't we?
Chris Nolan ruined cinema. Flashback this and non-linear that.
Yeah.
But the idea is, you know, when it ends with Andy Garcia and the Bellagio and the Night Fox is, you know, casing the joint or whatever. Isn't the idea that they tipped him off about how you robbed the Bellagio?
About how they robbed the Bellagio?
Well, it showed him enough of how they did it so he can do it to Andy Garcia and they have total deniability. That's what I got from the ending.
I never took it as that. I took it as like the Night Fox was gonna, Castle was gonna worm his way in one way or another. Because you've come to find out in the next movie that they're working together. So,
But do you come to find that out, or did the movie just forget about this and go, we want Andy Garcia in the next movie as
I
a
always took it
protagonist,
I
so-
always took it to mean that the Night Fox was working on his own. He's not there in conjunction with Danny or the Ocean's 11 team
sure
at
there's
all.
I'm sure there's a quid pro quo just before that.
Like spoken about on screen?
I think so because
I
then
don't think so.
because then Clooney loses big time at the end of this movie because he gets shafted by Garcia.
Well, they just give him the check.
And they donate it in his
That's
That's
not
the
till
payoff,
the next
is that-
movie. That's not till the next movie.
Okay, sorry. He doesn't appear on Oprah at the end of this movie. No,
No,
I
he
swear,
does not.
honestly, watch it again. First of all, this time you'll hate it again, so that'll be good for me. And second of all, I swear it's like I swear that the exchange is like, oh, you got the
No,
better
it's
of
Elliot
me.
Gould that gives him the check. And he's talking about these beefs, like, who needs them? Let's just move on.
That's in the next movie.
That's this movie.
Right, but the reveal is that the Night Fox is casing the
Standing
joint.
behind them, pretending to pick up leaves.
But that's
outside of
Clooney's
his office.
plan. That's Danny Ocean's plan. He's like, Andy Garcia thinks he's won, but I've sent the Night Fox to rob his casino.
No, I don't think so.
Well, it's an even worse movie than I thought it was. If you're right, because there's a non-ending as well.
I believe the Night Fox is working on his own.
But it can't be. Even a movie is disconnected. Even a movie like this, where one scene is as disconnected from the other, there cannot be that level of disconnect between the penultimate scene and the final scene. There's gotta be a logic.
He and Julia Roberts leave the Night Fox not as a team. He says, "Why don't you tell me how you got past this?" We see the laser scene. And then the Night Fox knows where his art is that they stole. He knows the combination or whatever the locker is.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, that's pretty amazing. Can you tell me that?" And he goes, "I think I've shared all my secrets with you. You may now leave." That's it.
But okay, so if those scenes are totally unconnected, then this is fucking garbage. Then I did more in my headcanon than this movie did in writing a screenplay.
Well, I might feel like that the next time I watch this movie. As of right now, I appreciated that this movie tried to do something different. We are not in a casino. I didn't like it the first time I saw it. After all the sequels that we'd watch, I'm like, okay, at least they're trying something different. It's not, like you said, it is not all focused on one heist. We have different things to look at, different kinds of heists.
It's definitely a weakness you're talking about there, but go on.
It's different is all I'm saying, Tom. And I thought we were supposed to celebrate different.
Yeah, but you can't do it in a blanket fashion. That just... it's got to work on its own
Don't tell
terms.
me what I can and can't do.
I will. Talking about the rules of our podcast. You say we're not in a it's like we're not in a casino, but no one told the person who designed the end credits that this movie wasn't going to take place in a casino.
Yeah, that's
Because
for
it's just
sure.
Casino table shots. It looks like they paid for images from a student photography project based on the Daniel Craig Bond movies. But there's an egregious moment of bad film style that ends this movie. The zoom blur freeze frame that ends this movie is like, it's Zack Snyder levels of style gone wrong. It's like Soderbergh's biggest stylistic swing and it fails.
Here was my initial thought. My initial thought was that Catherine Zeta-Jones fell down on accident and that her laugh is her breaking character and they freeze framed and stop the movie. But I think that goes to them saying, look at how much fucking fun we're having.
Oh, no, the whole scene, the whole final scene is totally behind the scenes footage.
Yeah.
It's they filmed the rap party.
Yes.
Again, they don't have a full script. Gotta get to the end of the movie somehow. They're gonna get a final scene even if it takes filming what happened after the movie wrap to do it.
Oh, good times. All right.
So I've already transitioned into my credit check essentially. Obviously the big one is introducing Tess as Julia Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fun. Meta credits, they back of my mind I thought, did someone like make a mistake in the credits and that scene just worked back from that? Hey, they got the Julia Roberts and Tess round the wrong way. Hey! You know how we don't have a third act? We could fill it with something like that. In order of appearance is the only way Eddie Izzard is ever going to share billing with Vince Cassell. Some great names in here. Dorothy Precious, Dwayne D.C. Manwiller, Several Spracklin. The names in these credits are more interesting than the movie. I had a better time here than I did anywhere else.
All right, take it easy.
This is one of my favorite all-time credit checks. Trainer to the cast. Think about that. This trainer is being asked the impossible. This guy's supposed to get as much out of Elliot Gould as he does Brad Pitt.
I just had a flash of all those people in a hot yoga room.
Exactly, that's what I thought of. It also explains why Elliot Gould, like in each subsequent Ocean's movie, just looks better and better.
Yes.
At Craft Service, the company that provides that is called Movable Feast, which I really hope is a Lost World reference.
Of course you do.
Because it means
Let's
it's
get
all
this
made
movable
of
feast on the, what's he say, on the road?
Yeah. Because that means it's all made of human meat. There's a song on the soundtrack called Requiem for a No Good Fucking Limey, written and performed by Andy Garcia. Now,
What?
I have questions. My main one being...
Is it about you?
I don't know whether to doff my cap to you or walk off this podcast. It's one of the two.
I think
No, that's
do the
great.
cap thing. Doff the cap.
Oh yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you, if I did the cap thing instead
Oh, yeah.
of being outraged? No, that's great. But I initially thought, well, that must be like recorded Andy Garcia dialogue that was turned into like a remixed as a piece of dance music. But that credit suggests to me he wrote an entire song, because written and performed by Andy Garcia doesn't sound like we sampled his dialogue. That sounds like he sat down and wrote, like sat at a piano, George Gershwin style, and wrote a song called Requiem for a No Good Fucking Limey. Original composition. I'm sure you noticed this. The Jerry Weintraub production logo,
Yeah.
where the end of the movie turns into a 1930s monochrome behind the scenes footage.
I did notice.
For no apparent... What an odd tag to have on a film. Especially this film. It's one of those production logos where you're like, whoa, what's happening? What happened to the film?
Because it's like a thing just for this series, because it's in the next movie too.
It is, yeah. I mean, I assume
And
it's
I've never
all-
seen it anywhere else, ever.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither. Do we just not... Well, you stay to the end of credits, so that can't be it.
Wait, what?
Well, he's produced a lot of movies.
That's what I mean. And I've never seen it anywhere else.
But what I'm saying is that means more coming from you than it does most
I see.
schlubs. Not that you're a schlub. I'm saying that, everyone else is a schlub.
No, I
who-
think I
who
know what you
doesn't-
meant.
Who doesn't stay... Why am I being nice after what you said?
I'm here to tell you, you're not wrong.
So, anyway, that was a strange little tail piece.
Agreed. Is that it?
And that is... Well, there's nothing... There's literally nothing else in the movie, so yeah.
Very good then. All right. Well, I've had a good time.
Yeah, it's been fun. We've
Yeah.
never argued this much, I don't think, about anything.
The Ocean series. Who'd have thought?
Yeah. Well, I certainly hadn't, because I hadn't seen any of them. I had no idea how much I hated this film.
Bizarre. Bizarre you hadn't seen any of these movies.
Is it, though?
It's a little bizarre.
It's right in my blind spot historically, where I just, for whatever reason, and I'll find out in therapy years later, I was not going to see commercial movies. It's right in that sweet spot where I just wasn't going to see anything,
All right.
and now I am again. Saw Godzilla Kong: A New Empire yesterday.
Oh, nice.
That's a movie you're supposed to see.
That movie's hilarious.
Yes.
The leaps that they have to take narratively with dialogue is delicious.
It's really, if you've seen the trailer as many times as me and my son have, basically we both spent the entire trailer working back from the trailer, So about the moment of which, spoiler alert, King Kong's hand freezes.
Yeah.
in the middle of the theater, my son goes, "That's how he gets the robot arm."
Yeah, right.
And I realized at that point, both of us unconsciously were reading the movie through the trailer.
Yeah. That's great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna have to break this tie for us. So where do you stand? I don't think I'm gonna like the reports back.
I don't think you want to open that particular door. No. I don't know. Maybe it was misunderstood classic. Maybe it was the Kid A of its time. You know that reference? No.
No.
Radiohead album.
Oh,
that
Tom,
no one liked.
come on.
The David Bowie's low of its time. Am I getting any closer?
No.
What's a band you know? Let's start there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why don't you say something about Pac-Man Fever? I can tell you a couple songs from that album. There's a Frogger song.
Pac-Man Fever.
There's a Donkey Kong song.
That's not an album.
Oh yes, look it up. Pac-Man
Oh, I know,
Fever.
I know it's real, but I'm asking what band you like, and you said Pac-Man Fever.
Well, that was before I thought you. That was before you asked that question.
Was there a follow up to Pac-Man Fever that nobody liked? Pac-Man
Oh my
Fever
God.
2: The Revenge.
No, yeah, there was no sequel.
Okay. Anyway,
Damn it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, break the tie. Tell us what you think of Ocean's 12. Find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, find us absolutely nowhere else, unless you send us an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. That's it. 12 is in the book. Up next, 13. So you'll be hearing from us next week. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. Say goodbye to everybody, Tom.
I phoned in that Dennis Quaid film.
That's a good line.
It's a good line, yeah.
Because that movie had come out, like, right then, like, at that time.
Is he talking about a specific movie?
Yeah. In Good Company, I think it's called.
Oh my god, I thought it was just a throwaway.
No, and I
movie.
think that movie came out the same year.
Oh. That's a little more mean-spirited than I thought it was. I can imagine Dennis Quaid watching this movie. It's like, hey, you talk about your shitty movie and your shitty movie. I'll talk about my shitty movie and my shitty movie, okay?
Oh, by the way, I want you to go to Peacock.
How?
I want you to go to Peacock and watch
Same thing.
and watch Dreamscape. It's like I
What,
think a 1986-ish movie with Dennis
Sounds good.
Quaid and Kate
sounds
Capshaw.
Oh, I'm there.
Ugh.
See,
This is a movie begging to be remade.
Well, but I wouldn't want it to be remade. Could you still have Dennis Quaid and Kate Capshaw in it?
Oh, fuck yeah. That'd be great.
They're still working. One of them.
Well, he is.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know about Kate.
I imagine being Steven Spielberg's wife is work in and of itself.
Oh, my God.
No, I don't mean... I mean because he's a busy guy. He's not,
Is that what you meant?
that's what I meant.
All right.
He's gonna be like Clint Eastwood. The clothes keep getting bigger. He keeps getting smaller, and it's just gonna. In the end, they're just gonna find a pile of clothes like behind the camera on
Until
a
he's
set.
pointing
That's
at chairs
like-
at conventions.
He'll just be like, "Well, I guess Clint's gone, everybody."